So my name's Erica. I am running the session today about how to stress test your job for good fit. And I'm guessing that if you've shown up today, you're already in the PA space, and that to some extent you like and enjoy what you do. So this session is really about refining and fine tuning so that you can really sit in your sweet spot. Because generally speaking, in any age or stage, any area, any industry that we're in, the more that we're in our sweet spot, the place where we really thrive and our skills really come to life, the better we're able to do. And of course, then the better results we're able to deliver, but also the more enjoyment we get out of doing it. And I've spent about 20 years supporting people to answer this question of how do I get super clear about what my gifts are, what my talents are, what my natural aptitudes are, so that I can do more remarkable things in my day-to-day work. And over the last 20 years, I worked with a number of organisations to help them to use the method I'm going to be sharing with you today to keep their best people, to really understand what makes them tick, and to align them with roles that really accelerate their performance and satisfaction as individuals and as businesses. And just briefly, in terms of who I am and what I do, I'm the creator of this model called the career equation that we're going to be using to hone in on your expertise today. And I'm also the host of a podcast to the same name entitled the Career Equation Podcast, which you can find on Apple and Spotify, which I co-host with my colleague and coaching friend Zoe. And we work through people's equation to help them to define and refine what makes them tick, as well as interviewing a wide range of experts within the career space. And I produce a column for a magazine you might have heard of called Good Housekeeping. I'm their in-house careers expert. So I hope that you can feel that you're in good hands, and a very warm welcome to you in this session. So it'd be great to hear from some of you about who you are and where you're currently working. You can just give me a kind of field, or like, you're working for a private individual, you're working for a PLC, just to give me a sense of who we've got in the room. And where appropriate as well, like, what's made you give up your time today? What's your big career question? Is it about taking the next step? Is it about branding and identity? Is it about fees and rates? It doesn't have to be anything to do with fit. I just would really like to know who's here and what's important to you, so that in each of the things that we do today, I can really hone what we're up to. So do let me know in the chat who you are, where you are, what you're up to, and your biggest career question right now. So I'll just give you a moment to do that. Hello. Great. So in real estate, somebody in real estate there, somebody working privately one-to-one. Anyone else want to tell me a little bit more? Just keep dropping it into the chat, and that will really help me to help you, which is really what the session's about. So, and of course, just to let you know that, the space here is confidential. So anything that we share, when I see your chat, I won't identify you. And so you can feel free to just download, because this works best if you respond directly to the things I'm asking you to do. And if you're listening on the record at home, do get your sort of scribblers out and fill in some of the pieces that I'm working with alongside the folks who are live today. And by all means, drop me a line on LinkedIn or wherever and tell me what you're up to and who you're working with. So somebody else working at travel, navigating a new role, exploring next steps. Brilliant. Well, you're definitely in the right room, and I will definitely be able to help you to hone really being confident about making your choices around your career. So what we're going to do over the next hour is to give some thought to stepping back to, what does career success actually mean for you as an individual? Often we have lots of other perspectives and views about what success could and should look like, and certainly social media and the general media is bombarding us, and maybe our colleagues and our families have a strong view as well. But I want to just zone out a little bit to really touch into, what does success actually mean to you, and to give you a framework to be able to articulate that, and therefore to make more confident, more discerning, more aligned decisions about the right work. And there's something very magical. I've been a coach now for about 20 years. I've coached thousands of people in industries I know lots about, industries I know nothing about. But one thing that is really common is that when we give this time and attention to articulating what it is we want to experience and where it is that we want to go, something quite magical happens about really supporting those people to have those opportunities come closer to them. Whether it's because you're better at articulating what you're looking for and other people then more able to help you or to understand what makes you tick or where you'd find good fit, or whether there's something alchemical about just taking the time to get really clear and crisp about what we want and helping to magic that in. I don't know, it's probably a bit of both, but that's the first thing that we're going to do. The second thing is therefore to better understand what makes work for you. So one is, how do I define success? What makes me feel successful? But then the second is, what makes work work? So what is it about the environment, the work you're doing, the people you're working with, the pace that you're working with, getting really kind of granular and specific about where you're able to do your best work. Because it's my thinking from the books I've written and the conversations I've had that environment is probably the most crucial aspect of work. It's really understanding what is it that makes the difference about supporting you to be at your best. And you can have a role that looks perfect on paper in terms of your skills and who you are and what you're interested in your background. But if the environment in some way is hostile to you, it's actually really difficult to perform. And I think we probably all have those experiences, whether it's momentary or a role or years of something being misaligned, and how that can kind of rub up against us. So I really want to support you to be able to know more about what works for you. And to help us do that, we're going to learn a very simple method called the career equation. Don't freak out if you're like, I hate maths, I don't want to do numbers. It's not about that. It's about the balance and equilibrium of the things that make for a thriving career. It's super easy to learn. And once you have it, I hope it will give you a lens for really quickly diagnosing where is there more opportunity in this role? How could this thing be better aligned? What is it that I want to communicate about what would make for me performing better or having a more rewarding experience of work? And hopefully you'll be able to use it for yourself and share it with others around you who might benefit. We teach people from the age of 10 to the age of 80 to use exactly the same method. If you're a human, it will help you. And lastly, we're going to look at identifying your next steps. So on the back of the insight that we've done together, so what? What are you going to leave this space and do differently or take action around now that you've got this clarity? And careers so often is a very sort of overwhelming aspect of life. Like there are so many choices, it's changing so quickly, the environments and markets are changing. So really the key thing that I think I can support you with today is to get to that crisp clarity. Because once we have clarity, it's much easier to go and get something, whether we need a new t-shirt, a new partner, a new job, a new home, a new school for our kid. The more that we are clear about the criteria that we're looking for, the easier it is to get clear and go and get that thing and to eliminate things that are no longer relevant or understand why something is not likely to fit. So, without further ado, let's get into it. And thank you. I see somebody else has also shared about their career and background. Good. So it's a very next steppy environment today. And that's important because on average, we are going to spend 80,000 hours at work during our lifetime. Let me just let that sink in. 80,000 hours is a lot of time, right? Let me know in the chat if that's surprising, if that feels about right. But to me, it's extraordinary that we actually might spend more time each year planning our summer holidays than we would planning how we spend the 80,000 hours that we spend at work. And given that you're likely to spend more time at work than you are with the people that you love and care about the most, it's really shocking and interesting that within our education and within our kind of general life management, there hasn't previously been a methodology for being able to hone in on, so what do I mean when I talk about success in my career, and how do I set up those criteria to define my next steps and to articulate what I want. And that was really where the career equation came from. It came from a desire to go, I want to make the most of my 80,000 hours. How do I make that choice? And it's really overwhelming and scary, and I don't want to get it wrong. And from my own interest and then curiosity in applying my modality to lots of people, I started to discover that there was actually a way to break this down. And that's what I'm going to share with you today. And that's important because most of us fell into our careers rather than chose them. Give me a yay or nay in the chat there if you fell into your career rather than chose it. I know that I did. I was in my final year at university and they had this milk round thing where like all these different companies come around, and each time that I saw an advert I was like, no, I don't want to sell whiskey for Diageo, no, I don't want to work for a water company. And I was sort of knowing until the civil service came along, and I thought, well, I'm a social historian, might be quite interesting to work in central government, but I didn't actually think that I would get in. So I thought what I'll do is I'll apply. It's really long-winded, boring process, and at some point I won't get in, and then I'll have to think seriously. But the process kept going on. I kept doing all these interviews and assessment centres, got invited to be a spy along the way, but that's another story. And I was successful. But I went to the recruitment day where they were allocating me to a job. And as soon as I walked in the building, I knew this is just not for me. It's too dry. Everyone is too badly dressed. The biscuits are terrible. The environment is really ugly. And those sound like really shallow things, but actually they had a really big effect on me. But they also told me something about the environment and culture, that the culture, and I did take the job, was very slow, it was very diplomatic, it was always very squeezed. And I'm someone who's very speedy and likes getting results and stuff, right? So I was really in the wrong lane. And it took me a while to be able to realign myself. So for many of us, this is a really common experience. So how do we step into choosing again? Because a career is a series of choices. How do I choose again with more knowledge and insight about myself, about the world around me? And of course that job was, in many ways incredibly interesting and taught me lots of things. But I did move on after 18 months, which was, not necessarily a win-win for either me or the civil service. So in order to be able to do that, we need to be able to articulate, how do you define success in our career? Because as I said earlier, we're often bombarded with a lot of pressure and even a perception or interpretation of other people's messages about what success looks like. To give you an example in my own life, my parents are first generation migrants, so they've got very strong views about what constitutes a successful career and a useful investment of all of their education and hard work. And perhaps for you, it might be interesting to hear who or what has shaped and influenced your own definition of success. Do pop it in the chat, or at least scribble it down. Because there are many, many influences and many louder voices. But what I'm interested in helping you tune into is, what does it actually mean to me? And perhaps you have given this consideration, but maybe not recently, because of course our definition of success changes as we change and as our life and the shape of our lives and aspirations shifts. So I'd like us to take some time to just see if we can answer the question in the chat and for yourself as an individual, of how do you define success in your career? What's the measure for what it would look and feel like for you if you are being successful? And what are the metrics, right? So we might say, feeling happy after a great day's work, or being recognised for my contributions. How would you measure that? How would you know that those things are happening? Because in any situation in our lives, what gets measured gets done, right? So the more that we can be kind of granular about, I got 3 great pieces of feedback and testimonials from clients on Google. I got a standing ovation when I finished my presentation. My boss publicly recognised me for the amount of money that I had saved while still producing an incredibly high quality event. Yeah. So the more tangible you can be about what those metrics are, the more that you're able to measure, how am I doing in relation to that? So over the years, I've listened to many, many people tell me the answer to this question, because it's usually the first question I ask in coaching or on a panel or in workshops. And I'll tell you that broadly, people's definitions divide into a few categories. The first, as thank you, someone's popped in the chat, is recognition, which is fed by being good at what I do and having that recognised. And people might articulate that as being asked for by name, being seen as a thought leader, being publicly thanked, getting great feedback and bonuses. And career progression is sometimes the way in which we track that we are being recognised for what we do. So that's a real key area. The second is to have, to create financial stability, to be a role model. So really around the creation of family and home life and stability and maybe financial independence. So those kinds of nuts and bolts, the tangible goals. And that being able to create that take home and the life that they want to experience. The third is about being able to kind of influence the space that they are in. Creating great design or helping things run beautifully, or so it's about the process, the innovation, the opportunity to make something that wasn't there before, or to improve something in some way. And the last group tends to be about the developing and support of others, like taking great care of my clients and being known for doing that, or nurturing and developing future talent, or being part of a really exciting, engaging team. So it's kind of more relational focused. And great, yeah. So someone's sharing, how do I measure it? Well, I've received some beautiful testimonials, really nice shout outs, maybe some beautiful gifts, maybe an acknowledgement on, LinkedIn or some kind of public forum that just allow you to feel that you're going in the right direction. And we all want to be seen and being recognized. Yeah, great. And someone else has said, really feeling like people can rely on me, that I have their back, that I am taking great care of them. So that would kind of sit in that people and relationship space. So it's a very broad set of 4 categories, but just to kind of give you an idea and some inspiration. And of course, it may be a merger of 2 or 3 different things. I think for me, it's a combination of like being recognised, asked for by name, so being seen and respected as a thought leader, and an approachable and kind of friendly and good thought leader in terms of the field that I am in. And also, I love new things. So, the opportunity to kind of innovate, create something new, collaborate with interesting people in a kind of varied, creative way. I'm always enjoying experimenting with form, whether it's podcasts, books, talks, panels, workshops, radio. I've done all these different ways of exploring the same set of ideas. So keep drilling into this, okay? Because it's a really, really, this is where the foundation comes from, is do I know how I'm measuring, what beans I'm counting when I say I'm feeling successful or I'm not. And if there's anything you've discovered already, just in kind of ahas from just this piece, do drop it in. What you'll notice if you start a conversation around this over some drinks with your girlfriends or kind of at work on a team day or whatever, is that everyone defines success very differently, but actually very few people define it exclusively in relation to money and power and status, which tends to be what we hear the loudest. Now, it doesn't mean that we don't appreciate those things, but those things are kind of the symbol of an experience. Does that make sense? So they are one of the ways in which we feel recognised, or in which we feel we are growing and making progress. So, as I said, I've heard the answer to this thousands and thousands of times, and it's always as varied as an individual's fingerprint. And we're going to drill down a little bit more further into this, but it's worth exploring and just noting how differently we all define success, and how that might have shape shifted as you have grown up and as you've had different experiences and perhaps reached some of the thresholds you thought would define success, and then set a new set. But underneath this question of success is my other favourite clarity question, which is, what experiences are you looking for in your work? So this is really about, what is it that you want to do, to be, to have, to know, to grow into? And a lot of the time people ask this question in a slightly less good way, which is kind of, where do you want to be in 5 years? Which I think has all kinds of loaded expectations on it. But this is a more expansive version. What experiences are you looking for? And again, I'd love to hear your responses in the chat. And experience can range from anything from kind of growth and learning new things, to where you do stuff, the opportunity to travel, the opportunity to work more flexibly, to work in a particular kind of industry, to make a move to a different kind of industry, to add in some other skill sets and components to what you're working on or in. But this is a great way, when you're thinking about next steps, to not jump straight into what's the next role or what's the next company, or even if you are by default going to those, asking yourself, what experience do I think that would give me? So, for example, this morning I was working on a presentation for the BBC. And why do I want to work with the BBC? What experience would it give me? Well, they're a world-class broadcasting organisation. I'd love to be supported by more expert people in the creative space and to work alongside them with my thought leadership. And I'd love to see and hear that manifested on radio and telly, and for people to give feedback and to be able to interact with that in a way that's perhaps more public than some of the training and speaking work I've done, where you need to be in that audience to be part of that. Do you see what I mean? So think about what is it, maybe there are some people or some jobs that are on your target list. Ask yourself the question, what experience is it that I think that would give me? And then just as a more broad question, what do you want to experience in your work, in your life over the coming years? What would that look and feel like? And this is kind of a question based on like the pleasure principle, what's going to make you happy, what's going to make you excited, what's going to make you curious. And it tells other people, because we're going to gather all this together in a way that we might share with others, who you are. It tells them much, much more about who you are than your track record. So great. Someone said, I want to learn from empowering people. I want to always be learning and growing. And I want to have stability. Brilliant. So we're starting to get, if you like, feet on the stools of success of what are the experiences that I want to be having that are going to make me feel like life's going the way I'd like it to. I'm in the right place, doing the right work. So we're going to do a little exercise in a minute that's going to start to finesse this further for you around the career equation. So I'm going to just give you a little bit of insight about the equation. I've got it as a visual as the equation on the left, and I've got it as a Venn diagram on the right. And we'll start with the Venn diagram because I think that's something that many people are more familiar with. So you'll remember from school, I think, that in the middle of all these intersecting circles is this idea of the sweet spot, the place where all of the circles intersect. And in a fulfilling and thriving career, as we define it in the equation, we say that 4 things are present. That you feel successful when you are working in your area of skill and excellence. We are all designed to be exceptional at some things, not everything, but some things. What are those skills and talents and strengths for you? And over again, when you look at employee engagement data, where people are asking how much they like their jobs and showing up at work, one of the key elements that determines whether they do is having lots of opportunities to do what they do best. So whether you are a phenomenal organizer, whether you are great with budgets, whether you are charming and influential with difficult people, whether you are brilliant at time management, at growing other people, at sourcing unusual materials, at planning wonderful holidays, whatever it is, that the more time you can spend doing that, the happier you're going to be. And do start thinking about what are those skills that I am probably better than most in. Yeah. The second element of the equation says that you're feeling successful and thriving in your work when you are doing something that gives you pleasure. So this is to that point about the experiences you want to have. So it could be a passion, like I love being in the fashion industry and at the heart of things there. I love music. I love I don't know, travel, right? So those are subjects or even places. I love being in the city and like where at the touch of everything happening. But it can also be a kind of experience. Like I love being of service to people. I love connecting people with things that they need. I love solving problems. I like taking the messy and turning it into beautiful, elegant order. Yeah. So start to think about what is that thing that gives you pleasure and energy. For me, I love learning new things and I love practical application of ideas that can help human beings to function more effectively. Like I never get tired of that subject matter. And whether I am watching Dexter or some kind of, I don't know, Queer Eye. In both of those, what I am looking for is the human transformation element, the curiosity about psychology. I'm reading parenting books and I'm, reading career guides and I'm reading novels and I'm reading biographies. All of those things share a curiosity about human nature. So thinking about your passions, think about the things that you spend time and money on, like, the blogs that you read, the media you consume, the events that you attend, the things you get excited about. That will tell you some more about your passion. And then the third part of the equation says that we all want to feel that we're having an impact. And that goes back to the first question I asked you, which is how do you define success in your career? So each of us, again, will have different ways of measuring feeling successful, feeling like we're having an impact. And that can be quite dynamic. That can change quite often and be shifted by outside forces. So what are the ways that you define success? And last of all of those things can be enhanced or made really difficult by the environment that we're in. So we say that skills, passions, and impact are divided by the amount of friction you have in your environment that helps you get ahead or slows you down. Yeah. So the fourth component I want you to think about is where do you do your best work? So, for example, for me, I mentioned about the home office, and maybe some of those things seem quite shallow, but like the building's very ugly and the windows didn't open. And we were out looking on St James's Park, but I couldn't open the windows. They were bomb-proof windows, and it made me feel like I was going to suffocate. So I'm very sensitive to the environment. I love working in beautiful buildings, kind of inspiring areas. I like being close to nature, and I'm not good at being tied down at kind of ugly office cubicle, for example. Okay, so that's one element of environment, is the space you actually work in. Of course, the other elements of environment are the people that you work with, the work that you are doing, the complexity of what you're up to. Are you doing 20 different things all at once, or are you a deep specialist and expert, and that really helps you to do quality work? Do you like collaborating with others? Do you like working on your own? Yeah, so all of those things are environmental factors, and they make a huge difference. So let's drill into these a little bit more and see if you can leave this session today with at least 2 or 3 things that sit as key elements for you under the skills, the passion, the impact, and the environment. So you've got the equation. Just give me a thumbs up if that all makes sense to you, that you're going to use your skills, your passions, and your impact, and we're going to try and minimize the frictions in environmental fit, yeah, and capitalize on getting the best fit that we can. We're actually about to change this image a little bit so that it's more about the capitalizing on the fit rather than the risk of not having it. But we say that this means that you are like a cactus. Everybody is designed for something. And a cactus is a succulent. It's a very specific kind of plant. And it's got very spiky edges so that marauding animals don't come and eat it. And it's very good at holding water in an environment that's quite hostile. So you too have your own unique and special features as a person, right? You have particular aptitudes for things you're really gifted in. You have environments and contexts that support you to be at your best, and some that really stress out and threaten and overwhelm you. I don't know if the coffee is bad, if the internet is going down, if the culture is toxic, if it's a long hours culture, if it's I don't know, if boss is, a bit of a prat. Like, these things can really undermine our ability to function at our best. The same way that if we put a cactus into a bog, it would be very overwhelmed by water and it wouldn't be a good thing for it. We all have features, and those features fit in particular environments. And the key to sort of thriving and satisfaction in your work is being able to pinpoint that, and then to design and co-design roles and careers that best support that. We turn this ultimately into what I call a design statement, which is actually just the gathering together of the insights that you have collected under these 4 components of: what am I good at? What do I enjoy? What's my passion? How do I make myself feel successful? What am I measuring? And what is the environment that sits in that makes the biggest difference? So again, I'm going to go quiet in a minute, and I'm going to give you a chance to do a little bit of brainstorming about these 4 questions. These 4 questions align to the circles that you've seen and to the structure of the equation. And I'd like you to really think about your top 3 things in each of these areas. What are you naturally good at? What are you the go-to person for? And just because it's easy, it doesn't mean you're not exceptional at it. In fact, that probably means that you are. What do you love to do, or be involved in, or learn about? What really matters to you? So how are you defining success and your impact? And what are the environments in which you do your best work? What are the criteria for getting the very best out of you in terms of a workplace environment? So again, I'm going to go quiet and give you some thinking time. I'd love to see your answers and reflections in the chat. Great. So lots of answers coming in now. What am I? I work fast and I'm hard and I'm well connected. Great. Okay. So making connections, facilitating collaborations, getting things done. You love problem solving, using your common sense, making things happen, knowing what success looks like, securing a client that I align with who's creatively and morally right. So having a great collaboration, kind of meeting of minds in terms of the person you're working for and the things that you bring. Okay. Someone else, an office when it's quiet and peaceful, when I can work remotely with some face-to-face time, when I get the opportunity to collaborate with others. So we're all different, right? This is really, really good insight. And the more precise you can be about the answers to this question, the more you can go and shop for it. Like when you're looking for a new home, knowing where you want to be, how loud or quiet you need it to be, whether you need parking, what your budget is. how many bedrooms you need. The more you have that information, the quicker you can go and find the right thing. And if you need to make some adjustments on the back of that to marry with what's going on in the market or the expectations, you've got a clear set of criteria against which you can negotiate with yourself or with others to get what you want. The same is true in our careers. So ultimately, this is about being able to define what are the environments, what are the opportunities that are going to help me to thrive, and therefore to be able to stress test some of the opportunities that might be coming your way, or some of the people that might have been recommended to you, or an offer that's been made. So my invitation to you is to see whether you might like to pop this into this sort of structure. This works really well for just kind of introducing yourself, if you are moving towards recruiters or to introductions, or even you're just refreshing like your CV or covering letters or LinkedIn or wherever you do, or your website, wherever you do your kind of positioning. So what we're doing is literally dropping what we've already got. So I'm going to use an example from somebody who's here. I'm going to use my skills in stakeholder management and collaborative problem solving, and my passion for creative, interesting work to help my clients get things done and make the connections that they need to be successful. An environment where the values of the person I'm working with align with me, that's fast-paced and flexible, where I have some in-person time and also basically work remotely and flexibly, works best for me. Yeah, so I'm just taking kind of mishmash there from various people's things. But I invite you to consider having a go at this yourself, structuring it really by my skills are this, my passion's this, these are the kinds of results that I like to get, and then this is the environment, heads up, that sort of supports me best. And usually things like flexibility, autonomy, opportunities to travel or not, how much exposure and time you spend with other people, what the pace is like, what the field of interest is like, might sit in there. So once you have this, whether you have it as your set of criteria or whether you have it as what we call the design statement, how can you make use of this? Well, the first thing is that when opportunities come your way, you can score them against what you've got on the list. So in this case, we've just taken best design statement, we put some scores against it. So she's doing pretty well in the role that she's in terms of problem solving and complex information. That's an 8. But investigating, perhaps the sort of innovating side of it, is a bit lower, and influence also a bit lower. So we can see where the dials could be turned up, even in the job that she is in. But she could also be doing this in relation to a new job. She's had a look at job applications, she's talked to some people about it, and she's making an assessment of how well the job fits with her. So it allows you both to make some decisions if you're choosing between competing things, but it also allows you to start to shape, whether it's the role that you're in or the role that you would like to be in, to be moving more towards those 7, 8, 9 out of 10s in terms of what you want to be seeing your work looking and feeling like, what success looks like for you. How do we then be able to make an assessment of how we could turn? And it usually is just kind of slight tweak in each of these that can make a huge difference both to your performance and to your satisfaction. Just give me a thumbs up if that makes sense about how you can make use of that. I would also expect you to start using this in your marketing material, whether it's the blah that comes out of your mouth or whether it's the blurb that gets written down. The more that people are able to understand who you are and what you're about, and in a short space of time, because we all have limited time and concentration span, whether it's recruiters or it's colleagues or it's former employers or it's network who want to know who you are and what you're about, this is much, much more specific. Alongside, of course, your track record and what you have done. It sets an aspiration for the future, and it gives us a sense of the character, the person that we've got in front of us, and that makes it easier for other stakeholders to help you to find the right next opportunity. Because when it comes to your career, basically where you look is where you go. So, what you are focusing on, what you are seeking to do will help to shape your next step. And the quality of our internal questioning determines the answers that we get. So if we're asking ourselves questions like, why is everyone else getting those jobs? Or, what's wrong with me? We're going to get an answer that we don't really need and doesn't really help us to do anything useful. But if I can ask the question, what do I want to experience? And then ask myself, what are the skills and attributes that I bring that I'm definitely better at than others? Or where might I find my best fit? And that also includes excluding things that you're not particularly good at or environments you definitely don't want to be in. Then you've got a much better opportunity for answering the question, and where could I find that? Who is doing that? Who is looking for that? So where you look is always where you'll go. So I'd like to finish our time with understanding what your first next step is going to be on the back of the time that we've spent today. What are you going to take away an action that could support you with having more career clarity about your next steps and helping others to help you in finding that next great opportunity? So again, I'll give you some thinking time to put in your next steps. And if there are any particular questions that's specific to your situation and scenario that you'd like me to answer, we have a little time for that too. So I'll give you a minute to have some thoughts. And while you're thinking about them, I'll give you some ideas from people that I worked with previously. So on the back of having this set of criteria, we'll quite often, first of all, look backwards and go, which roles, which environments, which jobs, or which moments even in a career really, really helped me to feel this way, and it's the only thing I can harvest about, oh yeah, actually I love project management, or actually, I love being involved in gigs, or whatever it was, that we can add in and make that thing even richer. The second is that when we are looking at opportunities and roles, we just literally build out the criteria set line by line and we give it a score out of 10. And that enables you to make some meaningful comparisons between jobs and to see how close or far aligned. Now, something might be quite low aligned, but there's a lot of opportunity for discussion and shaping. It doesn't mean you should necessarily write it off, but it means that you know what it is that you're trying to hone into when you have a conversation with the person about the prospective role and what you might want included or changed or shaped or negotiated to help you be successful. And then when you're in a role, being able to really hone in on what's my next step to have more of, discovering the possible in best example, like how would I do that here and who could help me to do that. So it also enables you to be really specific about nudging yourself more and more and more towards the full realization of your potential in your design statement. And great, we've got some examples here. I'm going to write up my statement in this structure. I'm going to explore what the current jobs are and think about how they align or don't align and how you can make them align more as well. Rewrite your CV to match those roles. Great. And speak to recruiters in these fields. Lovely. And consider using some of this structure, if it's useful to you, up front at your kind of positioning statement. I am killer at talking to strangers, making them feel comfortable and explaining ideas. And I do that in these various formats that have been really exciting. And now I want to do I want to have these kinds of experiences. Yeah. So using these questions and structures to support you with that and to have a great conversation with a recruiter and find a good recruiter who really understands how you tick. So again, somebody else like looking at my CV, looking at my bio, getting out on Insta. Yep, this makes a great little like Insta micro post as well. And just sort of sharing, I've been doing some honing, refining and thinking about who I am and where I'm going. And this is what I've got to. So you're looking for this kind of person. Yeah. Reaching out to the right job market. Yeah. Who's going to need someone like you? Yeah, there is a ground, there is a soil, there is a garden in which you absolutely flourish and belong. And where everybody is delighted to have you there. And that's the environmental factor, right? So it's not just understanding, you're beautiful, you've got loads of talents and skills and abilities, but then where do we put you best so that all of that is celebrated and made good use of? So, the Home Office, I was a historian, I was good at researching and writing thoughtfully and dissecting ideas. But I was also a very speedy person who had lots of ideas. Neither of those things were welcome in that environment, right? So I always felt like I was running in the wrong direction. I was a sort of bad fit. So the more that we can be really precise about what we're looking for, the better chance of really having flourishing experiences in our next role. And yeah, so looking out for courses to add to my knowledge, what's hot right now in the fields that I want to be in. So if you know that there's a field, maybe you want to make a lateral move into a different industry, start following, thought leaders, organizations in those fields, and see what the conversation is going to, and therefore what skill sets might be useful. I don't know, I'm taking a course on Coursera at the moment about AI essentials. So like learning all the different kind of tools and how you might use them. And they are incredible time savers for a huge amount of things. So that's a really, really useful skill addition right now. What's that for you? Yeah. What are the kind of tools, techniques, programs, ways of thinking that make you even more marketable to your ideal audience, and get into action with that. So I've got time for a few more questions, but if you want to connect with me more and carry on the conversation from today, check out the Career Equation podcast. We're on Apple and on Spotify and anywhere else you get your podcasts. We're also on YouTube. Me at ericasosna.com or the website, thecareerequation.com, or come and find me on Insta or LinkedIn and tell me some more about your next steps, what you're thinking about doing, and any questions that you might have. Someone's just asking, what AI course am I doing? I am doing the Google AI Essentials on Coursera. It's free to do, and lots of things on Coursera and Udemy are free to do. LinkedIn Learning also, they're all great places to get that education. So I'm taking that one. Others are available, but I just it is teaching me about some AI that I didn't have knowledge of. But I will say that whether you are kind of looking for the perfect venue, planning an itinerary for a wonderful trip, assimilating huge amounts of information into a one-pager, I find ChatGPT and Jasper and various other AI tools to be incredibly time-saving for that. So if you aren't already, you will save hours in presentations, in design, in research. And of course, it gets more intelligent the more that it gets to know you and the more that you feed it. So, and I like it because you can be quite rude and short with it. So I can say, no, that's rubbish. I don't want to see anything in Venice. I only want to go to Verona, and my client will definitely want to go to the opera. So tell me how we can do that. That kind of thing. Any other questions? Okay, well, with that in mind, I will let you all go. But I hope it has been useful to introduce you to the equation. There is a book about the career equation. I'm also in Good Housekeeping once a month answering career questions. So, this has been a kind of cursory dive into this question of fit. But I think the simpler things are, the more easier we're able to action and integrate them. And I hope that this has given you what we call the career equation goggles, like a way of looking at yourself and about roles in the future that allows us to really align your design and your uniqueness with the changing world of work. And I look forward to hearing how you all get on in the future. Thank you very much. Do connect. Do check out the podcast. Leave us a review on there. It helps us a lot. And if you'd like to be a guest, do get in touch as well. So enjoy the rest of your day and your work searching, and keep really focused on that thriving career and the experiences that you are looking for. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.